the main event of the evening, a lot of talk. As I stated in the intro, a couple of veterans that just like to fight and, kind of have earned the main event spot. Jorge Masvidal, moving into the welterweight division, seems to up his game a little bit from his run as a lightweight. Maybe the weight cut is more comfortable as he's aged. And he's going to London to challenge England's Darren Till. Till, coming off a title shot loss, looking, to start to bounce back and stuff, and looking to prove, that he's a cut above Masvidal. Masvidal looking for a fight, stepping in to this one, calling this one out just because, like I said, these two guys like to fight. And the build-up has almost been just about that. This one could also be the fight of the night, in my opinion. Right now, the books have Masvidal as the underdog. He's coming in at plus 200, Till minus 240 in the favorite spot. How do you see this one, Dev?
Well, we got an all-welterweight headliner and co-headliner. And just like Edwards and Nelson was a pretty pivotal fight for an already stacked division, this one's even more pivotal. And just like Edwards and Gunnar was really hard to pick, so is this fight. And this fight matches up very, very nice. And you got number 3 ranked Darren Till coming off a hard title fight loss. His first loss of his career against Tyron Woodley, first loss inside the octagon, going against a real fighter's fighter, a Robbie Lawler-style veteran that's been in there for years, multiple different weight classes against some of the best talent in the world, and Jorge Masvidal, coming in at the number 11th ranked, has 45 fights in his career, just a very, very tough fighter. I mean, I remember seeing him fighting in backyards and everything. I mean, he's Jorge Masvidal is nobody to ever take lightly. And he's on a 2-fight skid to Damian Maia and to Wonderboy Thompson when he was, before that Maia fight, he was knocking on the door of a potential title fight. Both these guys have first-round finishes of Donald Cerrone, and they're very good strikers. A lot of people think Jorge Masvidal might be the best boxer in MMA, especially the way he attacks the body, and he's very tight with his punches and a lot of power. Darren Till, very good Muay Thai, very good movement, and when I look at Darren Till, there's a couple factors. The first loss for a potential very top talent tends to make people better. They tend to come back better and more motivated. And he's in his hometown, and he's in London, and I think that's going to play a motive. I think there's going to be I see two motivations there for him to come out and perform well, and he's fighting a guy that is his style of fight. And Darren Till is somebody who could fight easily at middleweight, and Jorge Masvidal is somebody who's fought as low as lightweight. So he's going to be the bigger guy. He's going to be the longer guy. The thing is, the real wild card here is Masvidal is a very, very good boxer. Really, a lot of power in his hands. I'm going to be pulling for Jorge Masvidal because I've always really liked Jorge Masvidal as a person and as a fighter. I think Darren Till will take a page out of Wonderboy's book. I think he's going to fight this fight long. I think that he'll have a little bit more diversity in his strikes, and I think he's a little bit bigger than Masvidal. So I'm going to go by. I think it's going to be a 5-round chess match, and I'm going to go with Till to pick up the win in London.
Very interesting. Yeah, this is a fight that with Masvidal involved is dear to my heart. If you look at his record, you said 45 fights. Probably about 10 of those were fights that I was involved in and match made for him. So I saw him coming up the learning curve as well. And the bottom line is, I think you're looking at a guy who's, from the time he was very young, always looked to diversify. He's had kickboxers in his corner. He's been with the Avalon brothers in Florida. He's been with American Top Team. And he's always been looking to, keep the diversification in his game. And I think the boxing was always a secret weapon. If you want to look at a fight of his that happened before he arrived in the UFC, but against UFC quality opposition, he fought Yves Edwards in New Jersey. And Yves Edwards was also a guy on the cusp of a UFC world title shot before the division went, on hiatus for a while. But, Yves Edwards was a pretty skilled striker in his own right. And you can see in that fight he does possess a lot of skill on a stand-up, and now it's a good 10 years down the line, the kid's only gotten better. But I agree with you. In Darren Till, you're facing a lot of intangibles here. And a guy who wipes out a lot of your intangibles. A guy who fights in a backyard is a guy who loves to fight. Well, Darren Till, you're not going to like to fight more in Darren Till either. So, some of the joys and things, in those types of intangibles, these guys are balancing themselves out when it comes down to it. Till fighting at home, the bigger guy, you start knocking checks off on the skill level and stuff. George is facing a tough fight here, and I have a tendency to agree with you as picking or having people pick with money. The other thing that Masvidal has had a tendency to do, despite his skill, is that he has a tendency to, not get off, and then it becomes something where it's hard to convince the judges if you're fighting a defensive style, trying to counterfight, and unfortunately that's hurt him in the past.